Hello, hello. How are you? How are you doing? Are you doing well? Most people aren't, as I'm finding out from mindlessly scrolling on the internet. It looks bad out there, guys. I go on X, I go on Threads, I go on Facebook, I go on TikTok, I watch YouTube Shorts. Um, I do this for like research purposes, and it's just a lot of doom and gloom out there. So I want to make content like this, specifically today, this video, a way to be more positive and not in a naive way, an informed, like real, not just opinion, but just fact based. Um, Living the good life is tough because it is subjective, but there are ways of making your life and living a certain way where it goes down and down and down and gets worse and worse and worse. Or if it's uncontrolled and you have no idea which way is up and you're nihilistic, then life seems pretty bad. And I want to give you guys some positive hope that it gets better and better and better if you start living according to certain values that are very present in ancient texts. I'm thinking specifically today that in 2025, we're very lucky that we have access to ancient texts that are super relevant to today. Now, maybe you're like the type of person that you don't like to read. That's why you're on YouTube watching like short form content or maybe medium to long form content. Hey, I get it. My reading capabilities have gone down with the more addicted to the internet I am in that station in life, then the less I tend to read. So what I do is get offline, try to live in a way where I'm surrounded by books, and I spend my time reading what I like is sort of like philosophy type stuff, because even though it's dense, it does help me orient towards the good, the true, and the beautiful. So with that introduction, I want to talk about what living the good life means now in 2025. Everyone talks about living the good life, money, cars, freedom, gym progress pics, but 2,400 years ago, we have a bunch of smart Greek people going around talking, and this guy Plato and his team probably wrote down a bunch of these famous conversations. Plato gives a completely different answer from the money's cars freedom lifestyle. He argues the good life isn't about consumption or status, but instead it's about the orientation of your soul. So there's an assumption here, but if you read Plato, the soul does exist. If you're the type of person that's you're like totally materialistic, you're like an atheist, you're very science based, and you don't believe in anything woo woo, you might be the type of person that says, "Oh, the soul doesn't exist." I'm gonna give you another way to look at it. Call it the psyche instead. So the psyche is a more scientific term that was explored by this guy called Carl Jung, and if you're a strict materialist, maybe you'll dismiss all of this, but I think that in order to get something better out of life, you've got to project meaning onto the day-to-day mundane things. Like, one could view animals just as one can view humans just as animals, and they could say, "Oh, people just wake up, they need to eat, they need sleep, they need health." And then that's it. And if you're at the healthiest physically possible, then you've achieved it, and that's it. But I think there's mental health too. I mean, I think there's a component of what are your thoughts racing? Are you generally a nice person? Are you optimistic about the future? And if you're strictly materialist in 2025, I think you're going to have a negative outlook, because it doesn't seem like we're progressing as a society into a good and brighter future. It feels like we're heading into the dark ages a little bit. But I don't want people on this channel watching this video to doom and gloom. I want it to be a positive message. Okay? So that's about orientation of your soul. What does this mean for us today? Scrolling YouTube, half asleep, with 10 tabs open? I want to break this down to you guys. So, what is the good life? The good life is 3 transcendent values. There's truth, beauty, and goodness. Truth is seeing the world as it really is, not just the illusions, not just what's in your brain or the negative, anxious thought that's happening, or the depression on things in the past that you can't change. That's not necessarily truth. Truth is looking forward, looking ahead. It's looking at the present and then looking slightly ahead about the things that you can actually change in your life. Beauty. This is not surface level, like you see a pretty girl. This is, although that's part of it too, but this is about harmony and order that inspires your soul. So this is seeing the beauty in other human beings when they act with grace or they act with mercy. So that is like a beautiful thing that I think most people understand when I say if you meet a pretty girl and you talk to her, but she just kind of has an ugly personality or an ugly voice, or she's just got like 100 things wrong with her brain, it becomes like that person becomes less attractive. I think that makes sense to everybody. Okay, and then the last point is goodness. This is the orientation towards virtue. There are virtues such as courage, justice, temperance as a virtue. That is not really talked about here in 2025, but it actually is a superpower if you have a temperate nature. What does that mean? That means if you're going to drink, don't drink a lot. Don't drink excessively. Okay? Have a little bit or none at all. Okay? If you're going to use drugs, use them minimally and don't use them in risky behaviors. Don't like do cocaine all night and it could be laced with fentanyl. Like that's not the good life. It's just not. Okay, that's what temperance is. And then just wisdom. I don't feel like, that's why I'm talking about this so much. I don't feel like people orient their soul towards wisdom. What is wisdom? Okay, you could be a smart person, right? We see lots of smart people. There's lots of smart people in the world. People that are smart are confronted with a problem and they can solve the problem. But wisdom is choosing which problems to solve. And wisdom is a much deeper concept. And it's almost like if someone has a stillness about them, and if someone comes by and tries to give them a problem, they can deal with that problem in a minimal way and then stay resilient and keep on moving on. So it's like your ability to have stress tolerance. That's a huge part of wisdom. The next part of all this is how to pursue truth, beauty, and goodness on a really mechanical level. I don't want to get lofty here. Let's get like really, really like right to it. For truth, you have to stop outsourcing your thinking. Don't consume just whatever the latest YouTube short said or the TikTok or the headline that just assaults your eyes. Like you have to read through the primary texts. You have to compare the other arguments. And by the way, don't just like look at two people arguing. Take the essence of what the person is saying, make it the best argument possible, and then compare that with the inverse of it to really get the truth of it. And if you want to see how this is done, you need to do your own research in how Socrates does dialogues, because Socrates did this thing where he would go and talk to anybody, but he wanted to find the smartest people that were the most articulate with the best ideas. And Socrates had a questioning attitude to each of those people. And Socrates didn't assume that he knew anything. In fact, he said the opposite. He said, I know nothing. But he would try to elicit, using questions, the best argument from his interlocutor, from his person he's sharing a dialogue with. You have to test your own opinions in this way. You have to journal your thoughts. Truth can be a daily discipline. And then beauty. This is curating your environment. This is making sure that you feel good in your space. A small thing for me is like putting up these crazy posters. It's beauty subjective in that way, but I think there's like a raw power to, like Mike Tyson or just Blade Runner, which I think is a beautiful movie, and to me, it's like surrounded by. It's not beauty in the conventional sense, but it's like the underneath like values that, to me, strikes like it makes my space like feel better while I'm sitting here, living my life, like doing my content, things like that. So I encourage that for you. Like, keep your room, your desk, your digital space ordered and organized. Beauty is discipline in aesthetics, clothing that fits well, playlists that elevate your mood, art that inspires you. I think weightlifting is a form of, like going to the gym, it's a form of beauty. You're working on yourself in order to make yourself maybe aesthetically pleasing to others, but you don't want to do it in a vain way. You want to do it in a wholesome way it's good for me, it's good for others, it's good for my health, and aesthetically it's pleasing to the eye. I think all of that, when they come together, that is what makes up your conception of beauty. And then beauty, it just orders your life, and it points you towards, like, upward, towards the good, the true, and the beautiful. The last thing is goodness here. This is practicing virtue, like reps that you would practice in the gym. It's daily moments of honesty, small acts of courage. It's keeping your word. It's keeping promises. It's not hurting other people using your words, which, by the way, I've made a previous video about Machiavellianism. Machiavelli says you should do the opposite. So nobody here should listen to Machiavelli, but Machiavelli says you should use your words to get ahead, to get power. And he actually changes the word virtue to virtu, virtu. You should look up videos like this. Don't take my word for it. But virtu means that you have to invert the traditional virtues in order to get yourself ahead. Now, we don't play like that here. I recommend against that, but that is the difference. Goodness means you use your words for good, for truth. Machiavellianism is using your words for power and to get ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know if any of this ancient knowledge with a modern application, if this has been helpful. I will talk to you guys another time, and I enjoy making this type of content. Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks, guys.